Thank you for listening to the Golden Hour Drip podcast with me, Logan Lee Miller. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Golden Hour Drip podcast. I'm your host, Logan Lee Miller, and I'm in my hometown again. What can I say? I absolutely love coming home to visit, especially when my little sister becomes fair queen. So if you have not listened to last Friday's episode, I talked a little bit about like time passing and my parents growing older and all the things, so be sure to go check out that mini episode. But we are gonna talk a little bit about Fair and Lily and what I've been learning, what I've been up to, so it's definitely like a catching up episode. I will say I have been trying to meet with friends about like twice a month. This has been something like on my New Year's resolutions. Honestly, I feel like I have just kind of isolated myself a little bit from hanging out with friends in the past couple of years. And I think one, it was just the environment that we were in, but two, it's kind of crazy. Like after college, everyone is doing their own thing. Everyone has like the same troubles of, okay, this is who I was in college and now I have to figure out who I am as like an adult. And there's not really a lot of time to hang out or allot to your friends. You're trying to figure out the world. You're trying to make something of yourself. And it honestly, like I was pretty busy. I was trying to figure it out. I was trying to get myself together and I just didn't have the brain power to spend that much time with someone else. I was being a little selfish, if you will, because I couldn't do it. I was at my max capacity. My brain was fried. I didn't know what to do. I was like, oh my gosh, like I literally, I cannot, like, and that is such a basic Gen Z thing to say, like, oh, I can't even. I really couldn't. Like I did not have the energy or the mental load to take on someone else's problems, feelings, thoughts, conversation. Like it just felt like a bunch of work, which friendships are work. And I am so grateful for the friends that I do have that, you know, understood that I needed some space to myself for the past couple, you know, months, years, whatever. Like I've tried really, really hard to not like beat myself up about it, especially like there were some times that I just like, whew, I cannot do it. I was like, I really need some time alone. But now I've gotten to a place in my life where I feel like I have a handle on things, right? And here I say that and then something is going to go completely off the rails, but we're going to have our lucky girl syndrome. We're not going to think that way. And I'm like, all right, I can start adding to my schedule. I can start adding the fun stuff back in, because when you are on like a fight or flight mode, when you are so worried about the outcome or not sure about some things, it can be really hard to add like those fun interactions, because you can only do the bare minimum. You can only get done what has to get done, and you can't like add anything fun or extra. So I'm really, really glad that I'm able to add that fun, add that extra lately. And this year has been a year for traveling. It has been a year for connection and creativity and just like hanging out with people. And I honestly, I feel like I'm in a new season of my life, literally like a movie where you or a TV show where you have the different episodes and then there's certain episodes in a season. I feel like I'm in a new season, that we have new characters, new plot lines, and I truly think it's because I have put myself out there and I have signed up for events and gone to different meetups, and I'm really, really proud of pushing myself out of my comfort zone. I will say I'm a little distracted right now. I just lotioned my legs, which was the worst idea ever, because if you're watching on YouTube, I keep like crossing them or whatever, but since they are so lotioned, they are like sliding apart. It is disgusting. I like scratched my legs up a bit, so I was hopeful that the lotion would help like heal some of the problematic areas. I have like 2 long scrapes on my leg from helping Lily my little sister downsized her bedroom, and so I have like a few scratches and scrapes from the furniture, but it is honestly, it's terrible. So I don't know what I'm gonna do here. If you are watching on YouTube though, be sure to like and subscribe. I love it so much. And if you're listening to the audio version, be sure to give a rating on Spotify. It's super, super simple. You just click the stars and it's automatic. If you are on the podcast app, write a few words. I would love to hear what you say. But back to putting myself out there and signing up for events and meeting new people, being in a new season of life. It's crazy. I think back to February and March, my circle and the people that I knew and how it has expanded so much. May, June, July, and now we're going into August, which is so exciting. But just in the last 3 months, I've truly changed my life, changed my circumstances, changed my circle, and it's really on like taking those big leaps and bounds and those steps. And honestly, it's been really tough. I've had to be afraid and do it anyways, and I know that is so cheesy, but for the longest time, and it's still on my lock screen right now, but it says you can do it. It's this bright orange background and it says you can do it, because sometimes I need that little reminder that I am a strong woman. I can get through whatever. I have nice big shoulders. I can put all the weight of the world on them and I will be just fine. So I am really proud of myself. I kicked off my summer, if you will, with going to the Dear Media in real life event. It was so much fun. It was in Austin, Texas. I met a couple amazing girls there, and I'm still like keeping up with them even today. The next big thing that I've done this past year is the Kansas City Let's Be Friends. Sydney Morehouse puts these little events on. She's actually moving to Austin, Texas, which is crazy. Or maybe it's like 20 minutes out of Austin, Texas, but Sydney is moving and with her sister who lives there. So I'm not sure how the Kansas City meetups will go now, but she was so great to organizing these like fun little gatherings, and I've met so many girls through that. And after like the big meetups, I've even like gone to coffee with a few of them, or a cycle bar, or even hot yoga. Oh my gosh. One of my new friends, her name is Jenju, she invited me. We did a cycle bar class together, and then she took me to a coffee shop down the road. The coffee shop was amazing. It's a Hawaiian themed coffee shop, but they also serve alcohol there. So they are open all day. I wish I could think of what it is called. Let me pull it up really quick in case you were ever in the Leawood area, because it was so good. They had little swings. So the coffee table on one side had coffee shop. Okay, sorry. I was continuing my Google search, but on one side of the coffee table was like a regular seat, and on the other side of the coffee table was a swing. It's called Out of the Blue Cafe. It's in Leawood, Kansas. It is so good, so cute. They have these, I love a good matcha, so I was having matcha, and they had protein bars. It was the cutest shop ever. I would have never known that there was this little shopping area, there's like apartments there, and like a sushi place, and like a few like little boutique stores. I would have never known if I didn't go to the Kansas City meetup, didn't meet Jinju at the cycle bar class is what we did for the meetup. I would have never like then gone to the coffee shop, and so that was really great. And then we made plans to go to Power Life, which I have never done a formal yoga class before. I've done yoga on YouTube. I've done yoga in my PE class when I was in high school, but I never actually did a yoga class. And this was hot yoga. And it's really funny. My friend Kennedy, this is one of my sorority littles. She's been on the podcast a few times. I love Kennedy with all my heart. But like I said, I've not been like the best friend. Like I haven't been a very good friend lately. I've been trying to focus on myself and trying to like survive and figure out what I'm doing with my life. So Kennedy and I have not hung out. And I was like, we've got to hang out before you start school again. I miss you so much. And we have planned a hot yoga date on this upcoming Wednesday, which I'm so excited for. But it was like, at the same time, I made plans with Kennedy. Then Genju was like, hey, do you want to go to hot yoga on like the Tuesday before? So it's like different weeks, but whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, because I can go to hot yoga in Leawood and then hot yoga in Lee Summit, and it'll be great, it'll be fine. And I'm so glad that I agreed to go with Kennedy before I actually like went to my first class. This is gonna be so bad. But the first class, I don't know what to expect because I've never been in a formal yoga studio. I just haven't. So I'm really, really nervous. I'm wearing leggings and a tank top. I wasn't sure if it was like Pilates because I love Pilates, but you have to have like grippy socks. So I was like, should I bring grip socks? Will I be barefoot? Do they provide yoga mats or do I need to bring my own yoga mat? So I brought my own yoga mat, I brought my own water, and I was like, I will wear my grippy shoes and I will wear my slides and it will be perfect, it will be great. And so I get there and he's like, okay, like we have a free, for your very first time, it's a free class. But it's also like you get a free mat to use. I guess if you don't have a yoga mat, you can rent a yoga mat from them. And you can also rent a towel from them. So I did end up getting a towel. I definitely need to order some towels off Amazon because Cycle Bar has had some issues with their washing machine. So like I haven't had a towel at Cycle Bar and I get really, really sweaty. And that isn't a heated room. So I literally, after this podcast, I need to log on to Amazon and buy myself some sweat towels because when I work out, if it's Cycle Bar and apparently hot yoga, I sweat a ton. So I was very nervous. I was like, okay, like I'll take the towel. I went into the room. Immediately as I walk in, it is hot. I get that it's hot yoga, but I did not realize how hot it was gonna be. I felt like I was in high school again and I was in the wrestling room. I was a wrestling cheerleader in high school my junior and senior year, and the wrestling room was always piping hot because they wanted to like sweat out some weight for weightlifters, or I'm sorry, for wrestlers. They want to make their weight, so they have to like weigh in and be in a certain like weight to be able to compete. So I felt like I was back in the weight room. I felt so sweaty, it's so hot. I laid my mat down and we get started. Oh, by the way, you don't wear socks to hot yoga. He's like, no phones, no shoes, no socks. I was like, you got it, buddy. So I took off my shoes. I left my phone in the room where there's like a little like cubbies or whatever, and we start the hot yoga. I would say I'm a fairly flexible person. I always have been. But we get started on the hot yoga. He's putting us into all of these different positions. He's not physically, like if you had like a star on your mat, like if you got like a little plastic piece, it meant that you were open to like him to adjust you. I didn't know this, but I kind of caught on as class went. I think that's so important when you are trying new things or putting yourself in a situation you've never been in before, to be super, super aware of what everybody else is doing, because then you can model what it is. And that's also a great tactic to not look like a complete newbie. So it's like very nonchalant, like just take a look around. And usually, more often than not, people will tell you or they will show it. So I didn't ask him like, oh, do I need to wear shoes or socks? Like he told me, or usually in any situation, like you'll figure it out. You're a smart girl. I promise you, you will figure it out. So do not be afraid of like trying new things or putting yourself out there. So here I am, I'm walking into the room, I lay my mat down, we get started, and in my head I was like, oh, this is pretty relaxing. Like, this is not super, super hard. Obviously he was just warming our like bodies up before like the intense stuff. And I will say my even like warrior poses were super, super difficult. I did not realize that like holding positions for more than like a second is really important for your body and for your balance. I am proud to say that my balance is not that bad, and I was pretty flexible. So I surprised myself. I was like, here's something I've never done before. I didn't have the expectation. I didn't know how to do it. And I was like, you know what, Logan, like, you did pretty good. There's always room for improvement. But as we're going through this class, about halfway through, at this point in the class, I am laying on my back. My legs are completely over my head, kind of like you would do when you were a kid, like you were rolling on the floor watching TV or whatever. And I've like rolled on my back. I have my hips and my butt kind of in the air. My legs are like over my head, and my feet, my toes, are touching the floor behind my head. And at this point, I'd been super, super hot. I was like, oh, it's getting very hot in here. And just like rolling my stomach up like that, I wanted to vom. Oh my gosh, my chest is a little bit bigger than some, and so my boobs were pressed in my face, my tummy was pushed in my face, and my like stomach was just like bent in half, right? And I was like, I'm gonna throw up on myself. I'm literally going to vomit. I had to like close my eyes, and soon enough he was like, okay, now lower your feet down. Or I'm sorry, he said, now straighten, do like a shoulder stand or whatever. So I like straightened, put my toes to the ceiling. And at that point I was like, deep breaths, you're not gonna vomit, you're gonna be fine, you're gonna be fine, you're gonna be fine. I think that's so important when you are stepping out in faith, or you're a little bit nervous or about something. I always tell myself, you're not gonna die, you will be fine, you will be fine, you're not gonna embarrass yourself, you're gonna be fine, this will not kill you, right? Like, that's my mantra. That's what I say to myself over and over and over. I'm like, you can do this. I promise you, you can do this. And so that's what I was saying to myself as my feet were in the air. I was doing a shoulder stand. We slowly lower our feet down. He's like, get to sitting position. I'm in sitting position, and the edges start to black a little bit. Like my vision, if you can think of like a camera lens. Oh my gosh, guys, if you're watching on video, I'm so sorry. There's like a million flies in here. It's summer, you know, so they're all over, and they're pestering the heck out of me. So I keep losing my train of thought because they're like trying to land on my nose, or they're flying around my head, and they're so freaking annoying. But we are, you know, in the sitting position, and if you can think of a photo or a camera or something where like they have the vignette, I think is what it's called. I might be pronouncing that totally wrong, but it's where the edges are blackened, and it's kind of like the silhouette situation. It used to be really popular in like 2011, honestly. You would do it to like your photos on Instagram. That's also back when you would just like take a photo and post it to Instagram instead of like editing it too much. You would literally edit in the app. But the edges of my vision started to black out like a photo. I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, you are not gonna pass out in this class. How embarrassing would that be? I was like, Logan, you cannot do this. So I was like closing my eyes a lot, and I was like, deep breath. And then finally it subsided, but I was getting dizzy for a moment. I was like, that literally will, really and truly, if I would have passed out, it's not that big of a deal. It really isn't. Like, we are humans. Things happen. It would have been okay, but I was like, oh my gosh, that would be so sad. But I did fine. I made it through the class, and after the class, my mat was so wet. Like, there was puddles, guys. There was puddles of sweat dripping on this mat. My body was definitely detoxifying, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is so good. Like, I know it's so good for my body, but is it that fun? Yeah, actually, it was fun. It killed me, But during the class, I just kept thinking to myself, I'm so glad that I said yes to Kennedy before I actually went to a class, because I like know what to expect, but also I could have talked myself out of it. I could have said, no, like this is not going to be for me. Oh my gosh, like it's too much. It's not going to be fun. So I'm going to say no, I'm going to come up with something else, or tell her, hey, like, can we do a different thing? But I'm glad that I already told her yes, because now I have to go. I truly believe that if you try things once, you should try them again. Just to make sure that your reaction is the same, or if you have the same feelings. My mom would always tell me, like, when I signed up for events or like went out for a sport, in the moment, like during practice or whatever, I'd be like, this is taking too much of my time, or I don't like it. And she would say, you know what, like, do it once, maybe do it twice, and you have to decide for yourself if you want to do it again. She would also tell me this, like, when I was babysitting. If someone asked me to like babysit, she'd be like, do it once, babysit for them once. If they pay you like not enough, because I had this one babysitting client, I watched their kids probably for like 5 or 6 hours, and she paid me $20. $20. I was in high school, like, and there was 3 kids. That's not great for babysitting, right? And so I did it once, but mom said, you know what, you did it once. Next time you know what to expect, and so you can say, no, I'm sorry, I'm busy, right? So I'm glad like I did it once. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna see if my feelings are the same. But I also think even if it is a little hard, like, it's okay to challenge yourself. It's okay to do hard things and to not necessarily like it, but know that it's good for you. My ankles, oh my gosh, guys, my ankles felt so sore the next day. My ankles, and honestly, like, my shoulders felt so sore. And I was like, oh gosh, like, it really worked my body. Even though it was slow movements, it didn't get like, it wasn't like Psycho Bar. You know, Psycho Bar, the music is blasting, you're pedaling as hard as you can, you're putting the resistance on. It's all these like really, really fun things. You're like, this is great. You know, it's a lot of endorphins. It's a lot of go, go, go. And yoga is totally different. And I was like, even though it was very low impact, it still worked my body so, so good. I only get one body. You only get one body. We should be doing the best that we can to take care of it and to make sure that it is as healthy and as mobile as possible, because there's going to be a day that we wish that we could touch our toes, or we could put our toes behind our head and go into Warrior 2 and go, I don't know, there were so many. I obviously am a beginner yogi, like, I don't know anything. I'm literally the dumbest person in the room, and that is okay. That is where you want to be when you are trying to learn something new. And I was really glad that Jinju had invited me, and we went, and it was so, so much fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I just think back to February and March, I wouldn't have gotten that opportunity because I didn't put myself out there, and I didn't know like that she was out. I guess you never know what experiences you're gonna have until you unlock that character, right? I love to think of life as a game and just have fun, because if you take it too seriously, like, that's where you're gonna get into a negative mindset. I've been there myself, where I've just like not had the best mindset. And so I really think that if you can make things fun, if you can put a positive twist on things, you're gonna enjoy life a whole lot more if you can do that. So I'm trying to enjoy life a whole lot more, and I had a blast. I really did. But I was slipping and sliding around. I will say I absolutely am gonna need like a mat, like a yoga mat towel. I think they make them, because Jinju had one and it was so cool. I also want to talk about my yoga mat for a second. I bought my yoga mat in like January, February, and I had to have it, right? Like, I had to buy it that day. Sometimes I like will put things on my credit card I'm like, oh, I could take it out of my savings, but I'll just put it on my credit card and I'll pay it off when I get my paycheck, right? Like we all do this every once in a while. And I'm like, you know what? I had to have it that day. I had to put it on my credit card that day. I pay off my credit card every single month, but when you like put money on credit, then you have the pressure to like pay it off, right? It's not actually your money, it's borrowed money. And so I had this added pressure of, oh, like I've added a couple things to my card that weren't really necessary. Like I had to have them that day, but I really didn't have to have them that day. It wasn't an emergency. It wasn't anything like that. And this was the first time using that yoga mat. Second, I lied. I did take it out in the yard and did a few stretches probably 2 months ago, but I did not work up a sweat. It was probably 3 minutes and it was not good. Like it was nothing in comparison to this class. And it just helps put it in perspective for the things that I have to have in the moment. I have to buy this. And I'm trying to work on my impulsive purchases and ask myself, okay, like obviously you want this, but is this something that you need right now today, or can you wait until the next paycheck? Can you wait until the paycheck after that? Like, do you have to have it now? When are you going to use this? And that honestly has been so helpful for my purchases, because like I said, I purchased that back in February, March or whatever, and I haven't used it until now. So there's also like this eyelash tint and lash lift kit that I bought from Amazon, and I felt like I had to have it right then. It was an impulsive thing. I saw it on TikTok. I was like, I've got to have it right now, immediate. And guess what? I haven't even used it yet, and it's been 2 months. It probably doesn't even work anymore. So I just like try really, really hard to ask myself, is this something I need right now today, or is this something that I can instead wait to purchase until I either like have the money in my account or like actually need to use it. So I was pretty happy that I actually was able to use my yoga mat. And I was like, perfect, I'm so glad that I purchased this, but I could have purchased it like the day before. And I really think that like saving your money for those big things that you're actually going to use is more important than just like impulsively shopping. And believe me, I love Amazon. I love shopping. I love putting things in my cart. I love having the thrill of holding them in my hands. I think it's so great, right? But I also bought like this little like ball, and I bought a magic circle for if you've like gone to Pilates or done yoga. I got all of these things. I got all set up, and yet I did not use it until now. So it was great that I was able to use it, but it was also like, oh my gosh, like I'm just now using this. It's a problem. Like I'm trying to work on it. I get set up for the craft, or I get set up for the hobby, and then I don't like continue with it. So I'm trying to work on my commitment and my longevity and keeping promises to myself and making sure that I am staying on track, because I will say like, this summer, I have done things I've never done before, but I've also like started laxing on a few things I've always done. And I'm trying to find this like balance, I guess, of trying the new things, but also being better about staying disciplined as well. And I think that's what life is, you know, having this balance of the things we want, the things we need, and the things that we have to do. So I'm working really, really hard to find that balance and to start doing the things that make me happy, but also doing the things that get me to where I need to go. It's also brought up a lot of questioning on, I might have done this always, like sometimes the thing, and I forget who said this, but sometimes it's not going to be the thing that you've done for the past couple years that have got you where you are that are going to get you to the next level. Sometimes it has to be something different to get you to that next level, even though the thing that you have been doing got you to this level. It might not be what it takes to break through that screen or break that, you know, barrier to get to the next step. So even if you've always done it and you've been successful at it, sometimes you have to try something new to get to that next level, to get to that next big thing. And I've honestly been trying to question myself on, okay, why am I doing this? Is this something that I've just always done? Has it been successful in the past? And will it be successful in the future? Is this something that I want to continue to do, or is this something that the spaghetti, it's not sticking? I love using that analogy. Like sometimes the noodles aren't sticking, but you have to actually throw the noodles on the wall to see if they'll work or not. So I'm gonna go to another yoga class. I think it will be so good for me. I think it will be good for my body. I'm not quite ready, but I absolutely will bring a sweat rag because I was super, super, super sweaty. But it's been one of my goals for the summer to meet with a friend, a new or old friend, at least once every 2 weeks, or in other words, twice a month. Like just not too much, not too overbearing, but just to see someone and to make some memories. Because in college, or even in high school, we had these events that we had to go to. They were mandatory. I was in a sorority. We had mandatory events that we all had to go to. We went and volunteered together. We had just like, I don't know, like sisterhood events. And college, we had group projects. We had to go to class every single day. But your circle can become so small if you're just hanging out with the people that you work with, or hanging out with your roommates, or hanging with your neighbor across the road, whatever. So I've been really trying to find friends, new friends, connect with old friends, and to get together at least twice a month with someone. I think it's really good to see what others are up to expand your thinking, to catch up. And I don't know, it's been working out it's been working out pretty well for me, and I have been enjoying it. So I'm back in my hometown, and I've been helping Lily with her Fair Queen duties. I'm so proud of her. But like, speaking of friends, I get to see like some of my high school friends coming back to my hometown. So I get to visit with Naomi and Destiny, and they both have two of the cutest kids I've ever seen before. Lily actually she had a baby judging contest as part of like her queen duties, and I was so glad that another judge like showed up, so Lily didn't have to judge or like be biased and pick like my high school friends and their babies. So I was very glad for that. But at the fair, I was thinking, like, all of these kids had to make the commitment for these projects. They had to plan it out. You have to register for the project. If you have not heard of like FFA or 4-H, or even like you've never been to a fair, it's kind of a country thing. So if you've lived in the city or something, you might not know what fair is. But essentially, people take their livestock or their crafts, their wares, if you will. That's kind of an old word, but you can submit your projects. It could be like photography, it could be sewing, it could be baking, it could be welding, it could be restoring a tractor, it could be making a bench. My sister Ashley, she restored our chicken coop. My sister Caitlin submitted tons of photos. I tried to do banana bread one year and completely got roasted by the judge. I did not know that you need to bring a recipe, and my banana bread, honestly, banana bread has been giving me a run for my money since I was, I don't know, like 10 years old. So I've been trying to perfect my recipe, honestly, and I think Garrett is getting tired of trying all my failed attempts, but we're getting better, okay? I think that's honestly a story that I've told myself, that I'm not very good at baking banana bread, so it's coming true. So I need to rewrite my story, right? Like they say all the time for like motivational speakers, they're like, oh, the reason you haven't achieved what you want to achieve is because you still have an identity tie to, the old version of yourself. If you've ever read James Clear, his Atomic Habits, he says like the reason people quit smoking or lose weight or become an athlete or whatever is because they shed their old identity. So I need to shed my old identity of not being able to make banana bread. But so there's like crafts and stuff that you can submit on that end, or you can bring your livestock to the fair. When I was a kid, I showed just about everything except for goats or sheep. I did not show them. But I showed pigs, I showed chickens, I showed rabbits, actually, I don't think that I showed a rabbit. We had rabbits, but I don't think that personally, I don't think I showed a rabbit. I think maybe my sister showed a rabbit. I showed cows. Those were my favorite things to show. So you have to make the commitment. You have to register to show this thing. And you have to get your project ready in time for the big day, the big show. So if you have an animal project, you have to do weigh-in, you have to tag it to make sure that this is the animal that you've been working with for the past couple months. You can't swap it out for someone else's animal. And you have to get like rate of gain. So there's all these like little goals. And I truly believe that going through FFA and 4-H and doing the fair things has really helped with my goal-oriented self. And I absolutely love it. I think it's great for all kids of all ages, honestly, to make the commitment to themselves that they're gonna start a project and they're gonna finish the project. And I just remember how much work, but how much fun it was. And just like going back to my mom saying, okay, you can try it once, try it again, and then you can just decide. She also had this thing of, you cannot decide while you're in the thick of it. You have to decide later. So my mom, she wasn't like, oh, you can't quit anything, right? Like she wasn't a parent that put pressure on me in that way. But instead it was very open-minded as, okay, getting your project ready for fair sucked. It really did. I'm not gonna lie. Even having a cow, which I love cows with all my heart, you have to make sure that your cow is broke. What I mean by that, broke to lead. Same terminology for like horses. To ride a horse, it has to be like broke or whatever is the terminology if you've never heard of that before. That does not mean like you beat your animal. That is no. That's not what I mean by broke. That's just the terminology that people use when a horse will lead or a cow will lead or a horse will let you ride them, okay? So you would have to make sure that your calf would lead, your cow would lead, whatever. That meant you had to build trust with your animal, and building trust is not quick. You have to be in there every single day. You have to be giving them food. You have to be walking them, brushing them, hanging out with them, talking to them. My senior year, I played country music radio in the barn at all times. I would talk to my animal, and his name was Brutus. He was very sweet. But I was in there twice a day, sometimes more than twice a day, to feed, water, hang out, brush, lead around. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes concentration, and sometimes it's not always fun. When I went to hang out with my friends, Mom would be like, are your chores done? Did you get your chores done? Did you water your cow? Did you spray him down? Because it's really hot, so why don't you give him a little bit of like a bath, water him with the hose, like spray him down. And so it really instilled a level of trust in myself, but also like you have to be out there. You made the commitment, you have to follow through with it. And it was just reminding me of how much discipline I had as a kid. And a lot of people and a lot of kids and now adults didn't have that type of discipline in their lives. They didn't have cows, and I'm very, very lucky to have grown up on a farm. I'm very lucky to have had the opportunities that I was given. Truly, like it was amazing. It was so much fun. I really, really enjoyed showing. But the commitment was hard. The showing up every single day was hard. The making sure that I was tending to my animal in the best way possible, it was hard, because when you're a kid, you have short-term memory, short-term attention span, not memory, and you want to go and do, and you want to like not focus on that. So I I couldn't quit in the moment, right? Like during the summer when I was absolutely hating it and it was super, super hot and all my friends were going on these little trips or they were going to the pool. Guess where I was? I was on the barn. And every year I would get so frustrated during the summer. I'm like, I am not doing this ever again. Or even in the wintertime. Like wintertime was very hard when you live in northeast Iowa. So it froze and it snowed and it was blizzardy temperatures all the time, the wind. Oh my gosh, in Iowa, there are no freaking trees. So guess what? That wind blows all over and you can't catch a break. So I would have to water my cow, feed my cow, clean out the pen in the winter because they have to be in the barn to be warm. And it sucked. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not going to show a cow next year. I don't want livestock. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And my mom would say, you've already signed up. You made this commitment. You have to follow through. Now, after, you can decide not to do it again. But for now, you have to do it. Like, you can't quit for this. Now, there's been other times my mother has encouraged me to quit. But this was not killing me. This was not hurting my mental load. Like, this was fine. Okay, I was fine. I was being a moody teenager who just wanted to talk to her boyfriends and hang out with her friends and not do anything. Okay, that's really what was going through my head. So every year I would bring my animals to the fair and I would love it. I'd be like, oh my God, this is so much fun. It was awesome to get in the ring and to show everyone what I did and how good my animal lead and it was a blast. You got to be with your friends at fair. You got to hang out at the carnival. You got to do all these things. Yes, there was a little bit of hard work and during the thick of it, I hated it, right? Like it was sucky. And then I'd get to fair and I'd be like, oh my gosh, Mom, I saw someone else's project. I want to do that next year. Or I saw someone had this type of cow. I want that kind of cow next year. Or this person had 6 chickens. I want to show 6 chickens, right? Like you get influenced when you're at the fair and you're like, I can do this. I want to do this. And my mom would always say, remember a month ago you didn't want to do this. So you cannot agree to things when you are excited and at the very height of everything. And you also can't quit when you're in the thick of it. You have to make the decisions when you're level-headed and when you are not feeling any type of way, right? Like you have to do it when you are not super, super happy and not super, super sad, or mad. You have to determine it when you are the most level-headed, when you have the most clarity. And honestly, I have held on to that piece of advice my entire life. I will not allow the highest of highs or the lowest of lows impact my decision to continue on with something or to quit something. And I think making the commitment is really, really important. But also you have to decide if this is right for you, if you want to continue, if it is taking much more than it is giving, if there's no mutual or anything like that. So fair just reminded me honestly, it reminded me about discipline and it reminded me about commitment. And I have not been the most disciplined in the past couple months. I've kind of allowed myself to get out of balance and I'm not saying that like I'm mad at myself for this, but there was other things that were taking priority. I've had a lot of events. I've had a lot of friends get married. I've had a lot of these important things that I need to be at. And so I decided like if I want to be at this event, if I want to be a good friend, if I want to put myself out there, if I want to do this or that, I'm gonna have to make some sacrifices for the other things. And I've sacrificed a few things. I would say like my savings. I was so excited to get to like this certain tier of my savings, and summer hit and it was one trip after another and I was doing this and I was doing that. And I haven't been able to put away as much as I would like for my savings. So I'm feeling a little undisciplined there. I'm feeling a little uncommitted. And when I go through like my January list of things that I wanted to accomplish and achieve in 2023. My savings was one of them, and I feel like, oh my gosh, like what have I been doing, right? And so it's not to, when I look at a list of things that I wanted to do in January, February, March, even at my birthday, it's not for me to completely trash myself, tear myself down. It's nothing like that. But instead, it's kind of like a temperature check to say, hey, like, where have you been spending your time? What have you been doing? Are you happy with those choices? And how can we redirect, or how can we get back on track, or choose a path that is going to be closer to our end goal, right? And it doesn't have to be like, oh my gosh, like this is super, super critical. We are cutting out all the fun. We're going to do all the work now. Super, super disciplined, because that honestly for me, it's not sustainable. It's not something that I like to do. I don't want to put myself through a boot camp. That's not my life. Like, life is a game and I want to have fun, right? And so I think it's important to balance out the fun and the games and the things that we like to do and the things that we have to do. And so I'm just redirecting and getting more aligned with some of those goals that I have put on the back burner. And sometimes you're gonna have those trade-offs where you have to decide, okay, like, am I going to continue on with this, or am I gonna have to be okay with making the sacrifice of not saving as much as you wanted to? And I will say, like, there are things that I have never done before that I've started to do that I'm so happy with myself. For one, my step count in February, my step count was so low. Oh my gosh, I was getting like 3,000 steps a day, and I was like, you're kidding me. This is not sustainable. This is not good for my body. This is not good for my posture. This is not good for my legs. This is not good for anything, right? And so I challenged myself. I was like, 10,000 steps, 10 to 15 would be ideal, right? Like, I want to be outside walking. I want to have more of my day walking. And so I set up a treadmill, and I bought a little flat treadmill that can go under a desk, and then I bought like a little rolly cart desk to like set on top. I know that sounds so counterintuitive because it's like rolly, but it sets on there perfectly. And that was an item that I needed immediately, right? Like, not like my yoga mat or my eyelash lift kit. That was something that I was like, you know what? You need to make the sacrifice, and you need to spend money on this because it's going to help you on your goals long term. So I have a little walking treadmill and desk situation. And every single day from 9 to 10, I'm on that walking desk treadmill. It does not matter what else I am doing, what else is on my list, how I'm feeling, I'm on that treadmill and I am walking. It can be a 1 speed, or it can be a 1.7, or even a 2 speed. It does not matter the speed. I'm just on there 9 to 10. That is a discipline that I did not have previously. Now, back in January, February, March, I was saving my money and I felt so good, but I wasn't walking, right? And so there are things that I have been lackadaisical on, but there are some things that I have been more disciplined on. And so it's a balance. It's an ebb and a flow, and it's trying to make your life work for you. And you just have to decide what is going to be important to you in that moment. This past 3 months, it was very important to me to be there for my friends, to go on those trips, to make connections, to do all those things. Am I going to do that all the time, every single week? No, because right now I'm feeling a little drained. I'm feeling like I've been running back and forth. I've been meeting with so many people. This upcoming week, I have plans out the butthole. Like, it is crazy. Like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I definitely need some time for myself as well. And so it's all about that balance, and it's trying to make sure you're doing the fun things and you're doing the things that you also need to do. So I'm really proud of myself to be able to get my step count up It's something I've never done before. I've never had a walking treadmill before. And that's something that when I was unhappy at my previous position, that was something that really ate away at me, that my step count was so low, but I was so busy and I didn't have the time to, and I say this, like, we all have time, we all have the same hours in the day. It's how you spend them and it's what level of commitment you want. My commitment was more to my job than my health and my well-being. And so I chose my job over that. And so because I was choosing to do those things and work that position, I then was not choosing the time to walk and make sure that my step count was up. So I had, the 30 seconds of courage. I decided to quit my job and to switch to a different job where I can work remotely and I can walk on my treadmill. So that right there, like having that huge step of switching careers, that was already a big deal, but I have to follow up with more commitment, right? So whenever it's 9 o'clock, or really it's like 8:55, and I need to put on my shoes and I need to get my water and I need to move my computer from the kitchen table into the desk and I'm setting it up, I think to myself, like some days you don't want to walk, okay? And you're like, I have to walk. And then I think to myself, you know what? You in November would have killed to be doing this right now. So you're going to show up for yourself and you're going to have that discipline and you're going to be motivated, even if you don't feel motivated, because you wished for this and you wanted it so bad. And sometimes you have to be reminded on how lucky you truly are and how amazing this world is. Sometimes with how everything is so instant and we have it on our cell phone, like if you have new eyes in like, oh my gosh, like a grocery store, like how cool is a grocery store that things are shipped all over the world into this little grocery store, like spices, milk, mangoes, like all those things are so cool if you really and truly think about it. A store that not only you can get your favorite apricots, you can also get a new outfit or some makeup or even like a new electronic. Like a store is wild. And so I always try to remind myself that I am so lucky to have the things that I have. And so that helps a little bit when I don't want to walk or don't want to do the things that I've committed to do. I try to remind myself of even having the opportunity to do this. So next week when Kennedy and I are going to hot yoga, I have the opportunity to take off work a little bit early to get to the yoga studio so that I can work out with her. Like how awesome is that? Previously, I would have never had that opportunity. And so I think it's really important to be as grateful as possible when you have the chance to make the commitment and to do the thing, to actually relish in that and be like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect. There are so many times where I take for granted things that I have been given, and I might pick apart myself for something that I haven't been working on or I haven't been accomplishing, and I just have to remind myself on how far I've grown and what I've done. Sometimes, especially with Lily going to college, I sort of have this feeling of, I wish I could do college again, right? Like I wish I could go back. I wish I could start over and make different choices. And it's not in a sense of regret. It's just like you want to make it easier on yourself. And you're like, if I would have known what I know now, then things would have been a little different. Things would have been changed. Things would have been easier. Honestly, just easier. And sometimes I will think this way and I'm like, you know what, Logan, you did the best you could with the information at hand, and it's okay that you didn't do things. This is a busy road, sorry. It's okay that you didn't do the things that you thought you should have in retrospect. And all you can do now is to tell Lily what you learned, right? Like I think that's kind of awesome as a big sister, but also like so bad. Like I feel like I made all the mistakes and everybody else gets to reap the benefits of my mistakes, because I'm the oldest and I had to do things before everybody else. I will say, like, my sisters had babies before me, so that's something that they've like done before me, but growing up I was always making the mistakes, and I felt like I always had to be like a role model. And so I wish I had someone to tell me all the hacks to life. But then I also think, oh, like some of this is a canon event. They have to have it in their life to then like move on to the next step. They have to learn it for themselves, and you can't like give them all the answers because then life wouldn't be fun, right? So, but sometimes I'll do that where I'm like, oh, like I wish I could go to college again. I wish I would have done this differently. And then I try to reframe it in my mind of, you know what? I have the privilege to be able to change my job. I have the privilege to travel to wherever I want to. One of the things I did not do in college was like travel abroad. And Lily and I were having this conversation on when she was going to travel abroad and what she wanted to do. And I was like, oh, that would be great. I definitely think you should. And then I was like, you know what? Like, this is your life. So don't take my opinion as, you know, Bible, right? Like, don't be doing that. Not that she would do that, but I'm saying like what I say does not have to be the fast and hard truth. I mean, she can pick and choose because it's her life, right? And I'm like, I want to pick and choose my own life too. So I try to like be sparing with my advice, like give the good advice that is needed, but also like she needs to learn for herself. She needs to make her own decisions. She needs to do what is going to make her happy. And sometimes I wish I had been given the same like advice. I feel like that would have been more freeing for myself, for someone to say like, literally, Logan, it's your life. Pick and choose whatever you want. Because I feel like I would have done a few things differently. But you can't go back and change the past. You can only be here for today. You can only make the choices and the decisions for today. You can never go back and do it. So I've kind of been like slapping myself out of that funk and being like, literally you're wasting your present by beating yourself up about the past, right? Like you can't go back, you can't change it. And if you would have changed some things, you might not have ended up where you are right now. And I think right now where I'm at, I'm really, really happy with. I am so happy with the people who have came in. Honestly, they might have came into my life for a short time, but I'm so glad for all the people who have come into my life for a short time, all the people who will come into my life in the future, and I'm grateful for the people who came and who left as well. So I think everything happens for a reason, and you can get bent up about it, or you could just choose to enjoy the present, to follow through with your commitments, and to kind of question yourself on the commitments that you make, if they are going to be that fast and hard truth, and if you're going to continue on with them for the rest of your life, or if you want to try and do something different. So I guess we're all just trying to learn. This life, we only get one life to live, but I guess if we do it right, it will be enough. And we have a choice to wake up every single day. We were going through Lily's stuff. We were trying to pack her for college a little bit, to move her books into the office, and to downsize some of her shelves. And she has a sign and it says, "You did not wake up today to be a weak ass bitch." Sorry for my cussing. But I just thought it was so funny. And I was like, oh my gosh, like how good is that? To just a little reminder on, you know what, you did not wake up today to question your past decisions, right? Like to question what you did in the past, because in the moment you totally wanted that and you thought that was the best choice. And
I'm not sure I understand.
Sorry, Siri. But when you were in that moment, you felt those things and you had all the information that you had in that moment, and you made the best decision for yourself. So you can either beat yourself up about the past, or you can enjoy the present and think, what am I going to conquer today? What am I going to do today? And how can I move forward and set myself up and prepare for the future? So I am so happy. Thank you for listening to this episode. I'm sorry it was a little bit chaotic with the lotioned legs, with the flies flying all over, with the noise, if you heard any of the vehicles going up and down this main road, or even Siri on my watch. So this episode, it was so fun to make, and I want to do an episode about, because August is around the corner, so I think next Monday I'm gonna do an episode about, like, it's going to be very goal oriented, it's going to be very dream board, it's going to be very much like, how are we spending the next 6 months or 5 months of this year? So because honestly, like, I need to reset a little bit, I need to recalibrate. I just told you that I was a little undisciplined for the last 3 months. So I want to get back on track. I'm not going to beat myself up or anything, and you shouldn't either, but get ready for next week's episode. I'm still going to have my mini drip on Friday, but I feel like this episode needs to be like a Monday episode, a long episode, instead of like a 15-20 minute episode. So I'm excited, and I've already started planning for like this reset, recalibration episode. So thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Check out the others, and I will see you in the next one.